Hello, everybody. Hello. Thanks for joining me today. This is a surprise live stream. And as soon as I figure out how to handle some of my audio, how do I move this around? There we go. Okay. So I'm waiting just for a few people. Let me ping the Discord crew. We have a special topic. This is an emergency live stream about, maybe emergency is not quite the right phrase I want to use, but I just had to get this out there. Okay, let's see. I need to tell the Discord crew that I am online and on camera. So, am live now. Charlie Martian, thank you so much for joining the stream. So, actually, it's great that Charlie joined because he's actually the reason I'm starting this stream. Charlie and I were having a call on Discord, and he asked me a question about Windows Ink and WindTab, and I thought I'd been meaning to do a video on it. And of course, when I'm planning a video, I like to have a conversation in a live stream so that we can talk through the issues. I can answer the questions now so that by the time I make the video, we've sort of explored the topic and I have a good idea how to lead an audience through it. Now, I have thought about this quite a while, and this is a topic that's near and dear to my heart. I spent a lot of time thinking about this topic. I spent a lot of time being frustrated by this topic, and I wanted to get it all out there. And you notice the title of this stream is called, what is it called? The Entire Story of Windows Tablet Drivers, I guess. And if you're wondering where that comes from, I'll show you. It comes from, I found this video. And for some reason, I have just been obsessed with, so you can't see it quite yet. We'll get there, hang on. I have been obsessed with learning about a certain show, animated show. Let's see if I can bring it up there. Not that one. There we go. Yeah, and it's actually, I was inspired by, I'm trying to learn about the show called Dragon Ball. Maybe you've heard of it. And I saw this video, because I'm trying to understand the lore, and it's called The Story of Dragon Ball, I guess. And there's a similar one for Robotech, actually, or Macross. Let's see if I can find it. I think it's called something like, yeah, The Whole Dumb Story, or something like that. Let's find it. It's either listed in Robotech or Macross. Robotech. I just found it a minute ago, too. The Whole Dumb Story. It is written something like that. Okay. Well, not exactly having any luck finding it, but that's okay. Okay, and let's see. I just need to create some content, and we're going to talk and have fun. Charlie Martian knows about this. I loved Robotech Macro Saga. I remembered the day, like literally the moment I saw my first glimpse of Robotech. Totally fell in love with it. Never seen anything like it. Anime and this kind of media was just not very well known in the United States. I think some of us probably, Charlie also remembers Star Blazers. But that was all like very rare for us and very exotic. These days, of course, this kind of material is widely available and easy to access. And I think I'm kind of an anomaly that I don't know more about Dragon Ball. Anyway, let me get a whiteboard going as well, because I think we are going to need to draw. Give me a second. Microsoft whiteboard. I'm so excited. This is a story. This is a tale I've been wanting to tell forever. Okay, Microsoft Digital Whiteboard app. And what? There's no music playing. We can't have that. We need to have music for you. Oh, there we go. Some music is playing now. And let me okay. Let me open the whiteboard because I am going to need a draw. And in case you're wondering what I'm drawing on, I've got a Huion, sorry, not Huion, what do you call it? A Wacom Cintiq 16. And it changed my display. That's not what I wanted. Oh, no, I did want that. It's just that the Discord there. Okay, and I'm going to put the whiteboard on the Wacom so I can draw on it. And now let's make sure you can see the Wacom. That's not it. That's not it. Every time it seems like I boot up this Mac, it changes which monitor is assigned to which position. But I think we got it solved now. Let's start a new whiteboard. Okay. And Charlie, you know, you're my audience now, so. But if anyone else is there, please pipe in if you have questions. Okay, got my pen. And I also need, I'm going to open up a, what do you call it? A PowerPoint. Let's see, Charlie Martian says, I was watching a video and they said that the new Cintiq 24 has a smaller footprint than the previous 22 Cintiq. If I had to guess, I think that's true. I have the older Cintiq 22, and I'm pretty sure that's correct, this statement. Or at least they're very close, because I saw that with the Cintiq Pro 22. It was very similar in size, if you remember the live stream. Okay, hang on. What is today's date? It is the 8th, yeah. July 8th. Notice I'm drinking water today, 30 fluid ounces. I had a chat with my dietitian, who's patient, but probably somewhat displeased that I have been consuming an unusual amount of sugar-free Red Bull in the past week. She's a very kind lady. But we made a bargain that I would drink for every can of Red Bull, 12 fluid ounces can, so it's a larger can, that I would drink 30 fluid ounces of water to compensate, to pay off that debt. So I'm going to stay well hydrated in this stream. Okay, let's get the PowerPoint over. You know, I've got 4 monitors, and the Mac is just making life difficult for me. Okay, and I'm going to do something else. I'm going to set up Ecamm Live in one more way. Sorry, I'm going to put my face on there just to make it easier for me to switch between things, because I will need to switch between drawing and showing something. Okay, so hang on one more minute. Let's see, and I believe you're seeing the, not over, I want screen. Okay, so that's the bottom. Let's call the screen tab. Let me create a new, I know you can't see what I'm doing. I'm just setting it up for a minute. Anyway, yeah, she is happy that I'm going to be drinking more water. Let me duplicate this. Screen demo. Okay, and let me just configure my Stream Deck, which is going to make it much easier for me to switch between things. Let's see. Let me press this. Okay. Sorry for the delay. This stream just got set up pretty quickly, so I didn't have time to pre-prepare a lot of things. Okay, but we're almost there. That screen demo is on top. Okay, and you should see at some point. There we go. There we go. And let me just rearrange the buttons a little bit. Okay, now we're all set. Yes, so let's write the agenda here. Okay, so we're going to talk about drivers, Windows, tablet drivers. And also let me just make sure that Discord, that no one's freaking out there. Okay, yeah. So what do we need to cover? We need to talk about what are drivers. So I call this driver basics, right? And we're going to talk about what is a driver. We're going to talk about the driver versus config app. And just as a note, to be clear, we are not talking about Mac OS, okay? Not in detail. We'll bring it up. There are probably some things I want to mention about it. Same with Android and Chrome OS. But our focus is on Windows here, because there are some special things that happen in Windows. Big app, right, which is the UI. Let's talk about that. And what else we want to do? We want to talk about, we're going to do just a quick intro, like built in, just how can I say this? Just like quick intro to PNP drivers. We need to set something up, okay? And then we'll get into manufacturer drivers. So that's a huge bunch of topics just on this is general drivers actually, right? Let's see, this is drawing tablet. Okay, so this is general stuff. And you need to know these things, otherwise the conversation won't make any sense actually. Okay? Okay, then let's duplicate this. What else do we need to talk about? Then we get into a little bit about WindTab. Okay, so we'll do a little bit of history, and we'll talk about, I think, its role, right? History and sort of, I think let's leave it at history. And then we'll talk a little bit about, how can I say it? I'm going to call it, again, we're talking about Windows, so it means Microsoft. So we're going to talk about tablet PC. Whatever that means. And that'll bring us eventually to something called Windows Inc. And as I told Charlie in the conversation, because he's the one he was the source of this question about this driver, which is, I said, Charlie, we're going to pretend there is something called Windows Inc. And later on, I'll explain what that means. Okay, let me just double check the Discord. Okay, no one's freaking out. Okay, so there we are. And there's probably some other topics I want to just talk about here. Then we'll talk a little bit about PNP drive, for real. PNP drivers and like the details, right? Because we did an intro to PNP earlier. Okay, and I'll explain what PNP means. Oh yeah, we got to talk about Open Tablet Driver. Can't talk about drivers on Windows without talking about Open Tablet Driver. Okay. And at some point, yeah, I think when we talk about PNP drivers, we're going to need to talk about PNP versus Windows. Sorry, PNP versus manufacturer drivers. Okay. Great. Okay. Let's begin. So we're going to talk about driver basics. And I'm going to look at the chat and just to make sure, and I'll address Charlie since he's there. Charlie, can you maybe just type in what your background is? Like, how much you know about drivers already? Just, if you're new to them, it sounds like you're not, but just to help me out. How familiar are you with what drivers do on Windows? And then from that, I'll know how to sort of navigate my way through these topics. While I'm waiting for that, I can just begin with the basics. Okay, and here I'm going to get into the whiteboard. Okay, and let's see if this all works. Let me move my keyboard out of the way. I have a strange feeling it's going to be a long stream, which is good. Actually, the stream I wanted to do today is I got my acrylic paint markers, so I wanted to show myself using that. All I know about Windows Ink is disable it. Well, that's actually a fact. Oh, Kanto has joined us too. Hello, Kanto. That's a good point. Let me add that as a question, actually, or a topic. It is such a valuable topic to bring up, which is Windows Ink and why, right? Turn on or off, and there's app versus driver. Right, and there's the names of Windows Ink, right? I gotta also talk about driver conflicts. Driver conflict, that's an important topic. Right, I'm gonna put Windows Ink maybe even on its own slide because it's such a detailed, crazy-ass topic. Well, let's wait till we get there. Okay. So, Albert, Kanto, please feel free to ask any questions you want. Okay, Charlie wrote, I believe that Windows Ink exists and it's real. What was... I had a flash of like a meme. I have to think about how to express it though, relating to Captain Picard and Windows Ink. But it's not perfect though. So I'll try to formulate it a little bit later. Okay, let me move this darn keyboard out of the way. Okay, now, here we go. Okay, so let's take the example of a mouse. Oops, yeah, here we go, right? I can't draw a mouse very well, but you get the idea. And for now, we'll pretend that all these devices are USB and that they've always been USB, because talking about other kinds of devices isn't going to matter too much really in this context. So there's a USB, I think this is probably called a plug or something. And there's a USB receptacle on some computer, right? So I guess the first mystery question is, why is it, or in the old days, when you installed any kind of hardware, your computer didn't know how to talk to it. Like, it's going to send some signals to this cable. And the computer, was made in Redmond, Washington, or the operating system was, and it just had no idea about what data is coming back and forth to this thing, right? Or what to do with it, okay? So that's kind of a mystery just in general. And to deal with this problem, and I apologize for those of you who are already more technical, but it's good to start from the basics because it'll explain some more complicated topics, okay? Where did that line come from? There we go. Okay. So in order for your computer to talk to anything, it has to have the software that knows how to, talk the same language, right? And it doesn't come with that. In the old days, this computers didn't come with any of this software, okay, this code, okay? So when you built a device, mice, keyboards are a great example, right? You had to ship some software. Let's just pretend it's on floppy disks or a CD. And on the computer, right, you'd have to install that software. And that software is called a driver, okay, DRV here, okay? And then we'll pretend it's a mouse, right? And so the mouse is physically plugged in, and now the driver can tell the computer what to think about it. So like the computer knows, for example, like, well, I know I can draw a pointer, right? And the driver essentially says, well, now there's something attached to you that is going to control the pointer, right? And mice is a very easy example, okay? So it's just a piece of software that tells the computer what to do with the device, okay? And later on, we'll talk about how drivers get onto your computer, okay? Because they're sort of, remember, in the old days, they didn't have any drivers. You had to always install them. Now, so that's part one. Let's erase this page, okay? And the next thing is, and we're going to talk about mice for a second because it'll build up to a drawing tablet for a second. You know that your mice has 2 buttons, and it has a scroll wheel. Maybe it has another button over here. Who knows? Or some weird button. In other words, a non-standard button. Who knows? Maybe it has a fingerprint sensor here, right? In other words, something unusual, right? So there's some unique aspect of this thing. And you want to configure it. Or you want to configure what these buttons do. Like you want the left button to do left click normally, but maybe you want it to switch and maybe you want to disable it. You want to configure how the thing behaves, okay? And so most of us would probably open up an application and it would say sort of like, left button, and it would give you a drop down of what are the options, right? And the right button. So this is some configuration UI, right? And we often call this the mouse driver or the driver. That's actually not accurate. That's not actually accurate. What's actually going on here is that there are 2 pieces of software that get installed, right? On your computer, there's actually the thing that's really the driver. It's always running and it's always talking to the mouse or device. And then there's I'm not sure if it actually has a standard name, but it's the driver, I'll call it configuration app, okay? Because that's really config app, okay? And this is, in other words, this is the UI, the user experience, right? So this part is what you see and click on, and this actually handles communications with the device, right? Now, I'm telling you this because later on it's going to come up, but even in this video, I'm going to talk about, when I say driver, a lot of the times I'm just meaning whichever of the 2 things that we're currently talking about, okay? Sometimes I will be specific, like I'll say, the driver config UI, and sometimes I'll actually just say the word driver, And Konto, you didn't know about this? Okay, that's good. Then that you're being helped by this then, hopefully. So if I say driver, or anyone says driver to you, 99% of the time, when someone says driver, they really are just talking about the UI here, okay? 99% of the time. The only people who talk about the word driver, and they are specifically referring to the actual code that talks to the device, are when we're developers, okay? Normal people never encounter this, or people who are writing devices like Wacom. They need to know about this. Now, one more thing I didn't draw here probably clearly is the driver's communicating to the UI, okay? Have you ever had like Wacom Center crash, right? It's not the driver crashing. It's actually the UI, the config UI is crashing, but not the driver itself. Now, the driver itself can crash, but usually they're written pretty reliably, and the drivers just kind of stay running. But the driver UI, I don't want to say they're likely to crash, but if they crash, nothing really bad will happen. You just restart it, right? When drivers crash, things can be bad in weird ways, but we're not going to consider this kind of situation. We'll just pretend both of them are on. And another thing that's important about this is this also explains a phenomenon, which is why does your mouse work or your tablet work even though the driver UI is not running? That's pretty obvious here because the driver is running, the UI is not running. And we don't need the UI. The driver itself is actually working, right? So just keep this in mind, okay? Once you have this framework, lots of other stuff will start to make sense. Okay, let me look in the chat in Discord just to make sure no one is asking me questions. And Konto says, yeah, I do remember installing drivers off CDs back in the early 2000s. Okay, that's great, because this actually leads to my next topic, which is, you don't know what it means yet, but it's called PNP drivers, okay? So let's erase it. Is there a fast way to erase this page? I wonder. Let's just take a look here. Nope, of course, we don't have a fast way of erasing pages. Okay. So let's start drawing again. So, in the olden times, and when I say olden times, I don't mean pre-COVID. I mean older than that. Old times is really old, okay? Like, I don't know, prehistory, like the 80s, okay? 70s, I guess. Okay. So in the olden times, this is the computer, okay? There were no drivers, but you had to install them, okay? So you had to take your CD or floppy disks at the time and install the driver, and the driver would sit here. We're just going to ignore the UI for the driver for a second. The driver is there, DRV, okay? Now, you want to think about it as computers got more popular. A configurator, yeah, that's what the UI is. As computers got more popular, this is kind of a hard step for people to do for a couple of reasons, okay? Now, first of all, it's just, my mom is probably a great example. Like, for her, when you install a piece of software, she's not really clueful on what's going on, right? I know we all have our parents who maybe are not totally understanding what the computer does. So it can be mystery. It can be mystery even that she has to do it, right? And it's just a headache in general. You should expect, because as GUI started getting popular, people just expected things like mice to work and monitors to work, okay? So what's the solution if you're Microsoft and you're in Windows and you're like, you just want, in Microsoft, literally, there's a phrase, and I'm not saying we invented it, but it's sort of a theme of a lot of conversations in Microsoft. It's called, JW, just work. We want things to just work, okay? That phrase, at least historically, colored a lot of our thinking about how software should interact with you. We don't want you to have to think about it. We just want the software to do what you think it's going to do. So if you plug in a mouse, it just works. You're not supposed to have to configure it, right? At least in its basic operation, okay? Now, so what Microsoft starts doing is they say, you know what, we're going to, I'm going to put this in red, we're going to ship Windows with a bunch of PNP drivers. We'll get to what PNP means in a second, okay? This is a simplified history. So if you take this to somebody who works in Windows, they'll be like, oh, Mr. Seven is leaving out a lot of detail, right? But remember, this is just a setup for you to understand what the hell is going on with Windows Inc., WindTab, all these things. So PNP drivers are made by Microsoft. At least let's consider them, right? Now, maybe we partner with, let's say, NVIDIA, so that there's already drivers installed for their, their things. But there's not an infinite list. But there's a large set. And what's this mean? A lot of devices have, PNP means plug and play. And plug and play is really the concept of, it's kind of related to the concept of just work, right? It's a very similar way, it's another way of saying a very similar thing, which is just attach the cable and suddenly it should just work, okay? And why am I not hearing my music? Okay, we're going to let it play. It looks like, that's strange. Okay. Oh, it's muted. That's why I clicked the mute button. There we go. Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you, Kanto. So, PNP drivers, I'm showing the wrong thing. My mistake. So here's the computer. Here's the drivers that you installed in black, right? And the PNP drivers are in red. And again, they're made by Microsoft. And plug and play, what PNP stands for, just means they just work. That's the idea, okay? Now, sometimes people were not happy with the PNP drivers, and they made a joke, okay? And the joke was they said that PNP didn't stand for plug and play. The joke was, remember, I'm going to put the word joke here because the snark, maybe it'd be better to say, is that it stood for plug and pray. Meaning, you plugged it in and you prayed to God, hoping it was going to work, right? That was their joke. And, maybe it was justified, maybe it wasn't, but I just wanted to share that little tidbit with you. Okay. So let's see. Art says, I tried to debug driver issues earlier, and the default Windows driver for AMD gave me 1,200 milliseconds frame times. It just works. I can't speak to every driver in the world. I can just tell you, most of the time things work. Okay? So mice are a great example, right? Let me erase this little turd here. Okay. So, now, one more thing I want to talk about is let's consider that mouse for a second, okay? Now remember, if I plug in the mouse, okay, and if it's a normal mouse, 2 buttons, okay, there's a mouse PNP driver, and this will just work. What if, and remember, the driver has to be written to understand what mice do. So the driver understands mice have positions, and it has 2 buttons in this case, okay? What if you're making the first mouse that has a 3rd button or whatever? Like, no one's ever even heard of a mouse with 3 buttons. The PNP drivers, then, which are written for 2 buttons, they, if you click, they won't do anything with this. Like, the mouse will work, but the special feature of it, this 3rd button, or maybe they add, what did I say earlier? A fingerprint sensor or a wheel or something. The driver's never heard of it, so it doesn't know it exists. So these extra features of your device will never work with PNP drivers. This point will come up later, trust me, okay? So in this case, certain mice or devices that have special features that are not generic, you still have to install, and I'll put this in the rainbow color, you have to install those sort of like special, this is not the technical term for them, special drivers, right? Again, the device will work, the two buttons will work, but the third and fourth button, you need the special drivers. So any device that has special features, you need special drivers for, okay? So we've been talking about mice. Let's talk about another case, just to help you get the feel of this, okay? Let's create a new whiteboard here. So many of you use a monitor, right? Let me ask you a question. When's the last time you plugged in a monitor and your computer didn't know what to do with it? And the reason it knows what to do with it is, drivers and agreements of standards like HDMI, etc., right? However, what if your monitor has a special feature, which is like, I don't know, it has, I know some of these monitors have like lighting in the back. They have like lighting on the back because they're like TVs, right? They're trying to show you the background color of the screen so that it's just more moody as you're watching a video. Well, that's a feature a generic PNP driver doesn't know of. So sometimes you'll see monitors that have special buttons that do special things, right? So for these special features, you have to install the special driver, okay? So again, the point I'm trying to say is the PNP drivers will make devices work generic, their basic operation will work, but special features that are unique to those things that the driver doesn't know about require a special driver still, okay? Okay, there we go. Now, I'm going to mention this, then we're going to move off the topic, then we're going to come back. Okay, before I do, let's take a look at Arch, who has a couple comments. You guys need drivers for your mouse and keyboard? Laughs in PS2 and Master Race. Well, something has to handle the mouse and keyboard. It can't just be, at some level there's some code somewhere. Okay, and then Arch has another comment. Pretty sure PC hardware OEMs still run PS2 ports and peripherals because they will work on a system that can't install anything. Barely runs at room temperature. Well, yeah, there's some dedicated support for these things, right? Charlie Martin says, FreeSync, yeah, that requires some special work maybe, like some special driver. I've never used FreeSync, so I don't know. But you get the idea, right? Remember, PNP handles the things that it knows about. And it knows about very generic things. It doesn't know about every piece of hardware. It'll work with almost any piece of hardware, but it just doesn't know special things, unique things, right? Okay. Now I said a statement there. I said PNP drivers will work with if it works with mice, it'll work for all mice. That's mostly true. You're going to see some cases where, for whatever reason, the PNP driver will not work. Okay, we'll get into that, okay? But now you know PNP drivers. And again, PNP drivers are made by Microsoft, and they're pre-installed, okay? Now, these special drivers, I've been using the word special driver, but that's actually not a good name. I would actually just call these manufacturer drivers, meaning whoever made your device, okay? So in the world of drawing tablets, what are the manufacturer drivers? Well, there's the Wacom driver, there's the Huion driver, et cetera, right? That's what I mean by manufacturer drivers. Okay, let's get to the next topic, which is, WindTab. WindTab, okay. Now, there's more history here that I'm not getting into, even some legal history that I'm not getting into, like lawsuit stuff. But I'm going to give you a simplified view of the world, okay? And just to keep it real, let me, hang on. I gotta get this keyboard out of the way. I need to put the keyboard in a way where it's not interfering with me, but yet I can still access it. Okay, hang on. Actually, give me a moment. I need to take a quick break, just a quick bio break, and I'll be right back. Okay. Okay, I'm back. And Arch, I do remember, or Albert, I do remember when I had to assign interrupts manually with IRQs, right, on DOS. That was a nightmare to live in that world where you had to deal with these kinds of things. Okay, more water. I'm happy I don't have to deal with config.sys and IRQs and having to pick things like, oh, hard to believe I lived in that world. Okay, WindTab. Let me bring up, just because it'll help me make sure I don't skip anything. WindTab. Let's just make sure it's. I don't think Windows has a. I don't think Wikipedia has an article on WindTab, but Wacom has a GitHub repo. Oh, let's just see what AI says. Yeah, okay. So, does everyone know? And if not, well, okay, we'll just make sure everyone does know by writing. Okay. So, in the computer, right, you have the operating system, okay? And like the kernel, all the other things that belong to the operating system, right? And one of the apps that exist in the operating system, then there are many such apps. We'll call it an app. We're going to call it the pointer app, right? Who knows what it's actually called? It's the thing that draws the mouse cursor, right? That you see. Let's see. Sorry, you're not seeing my screen, so. Right? It's the thing that draws the mouse cursor you see here. Okay? It's pretty tiny on your screen, what you're seeing. What are some other apps OSs have? Notepad, right? On Windows anyway, Notepad. So I just want to point out that the pointer in this conversation we can think of as an application. Okay? And when you plug in a tablet, right? Windows for a long time didn't know what to do. And remember, tablets, as we talked about a month or so ago, tablets for Windows have existed for a very long time, right? Like since, since I guess the 90s, when Windows even came around, tablets were around, because Wacom had tablets in 1987, right? The SD series. So this is before Windows, When was the first version of Windows? Actually, I can't remember. But in any case, Windows was very small then. There were other operating systems. So for a drawing tablet, there had to be some way for Wacom, and specifically Wacom in this case, though there were other manufacturers. How can a Wacom tablet talk to the OS, and how can the pointer app know, to talk to get the position of the pen and the pressure, or it doesn't use pressure, but whether you've pressed down or not. Okay. Well, it has to talk to something. What is the thing it talks to? Obviously the driver, right? Obviously, that's the component, right? And we'll say this goes like this, right? The OS. So the pointer talks to the OS, which talks to the driver. This is kind of the path, okay? Again, you can debate if I drew these lines correctly, but you get the idea. In order to talk to the tablet, you have to go to the driver. And the language, so to speak, that you talk is called an API. So they have to agree on the certain language, which is called API. API is not a specific language, it's a terminology, which means API means application programming interface. Okay? Now, many people would dispute and say that my use of the word language is inaccurate. That I shouldn't talk about an API as a language, and that's totally, in the sense that criticism can be lodged against me. It's fair criticism, but my choice of that word language is really deliberate because it's going to help us understand something later. Okay, so when I say language here, let's be a little more clear. It's more like the way you communicate. It's not. You could interpret it like specific words. The language of an API here is, for a drawing tablet, is something like this. Give me data about the pen, meaning I'm the pointer app, right? The thing drawing the mouse pointer. And the message I'm sending to the driver is, I can say this, give me the location of the pen, and then the driver will send back in this language, it'll come back and say, okay, the pen's X position, meaning across the screen, is at 300 pixels, and the Y position is at 250 pixels, okay? And then I ask again, and then I get the new position, okay? That's just how it works. It's just kind of, this is kind of an ask and answer thing. Let's just pretend it's an ask and answer language, okay? And there are different tweaks on this, but you get the idea. It's a way of, and this language, this API, constrains the kind of questions and discussion these two components you can have. The API, and not just controls, it restricts it. Like, there are certain questions that cannot be formulated in this language, right? The language is the only way, and how can I say it? It just, it defines how you can talk. And so everything has to be constrained by the language, the API. Okay, this will come up later. Think about, but literally think about this driver saying, think about the driver like this. If it's humans, right? And let's say the pointer says, let's pretend the pointer can only speak in German. And the driver can speak only in English. Well, you got a problem there. They have to agree on the language, okay? And again, this analogy will come back later. So they have to agree to both talk German, okay? And I'm just going to place it in your head right now, which is what happens when you get multilingual people, okay? Like, what if the driver and the pointer, if they were people, they could talk in either language? Would they prefer to use one or the other? We'll not get there quite yet, but keep it in mind. We can switch languages, possibly, okay? Because it will come up. Okay, so the API that existed, and now the API is called, let me erase some of this stuff here. And let me check any questions. Okay, no additional questions. Okay. Let's erase here. So we'll erase some of these boxes here. And instead of talking about the driver now, we're going to talk about the language that the driver implements, okay? So this is the driver. And it speaks a certain language. And I'm gonna draw it as a box inside for just a moment, called WindTab. That is its actual name. Now, WindTab, if I understand the story correctly, it was created by a set of companies. It wasn't just Wacom. It was several companies involved, at least two. I think quite a few more, because there were other tablet brands as well. Okay. And we can find out the history. I mean, in fact, let's see if we can take a brief detour. WindTab, somewhere it is explained, but it's been so long. WindTab, let's see. I actually found the doc a long time ago, which showed the origins of it. WindTab origin. It was a company that wasn't Wacom. That's what I'm trying to get at. Okay. In any case, okay, it's so old. Remember, this is something I think from the 80s, okay? So, but now, so in the 80s, I think, multiple organizations created it, but now, for a long time now, basically, I don't know, I'm gonna make up a date here, like now, for a long time, the standard, WindTab is a standard, it's like a definition of a language. It's only Wacom. Wacom maintains the language, like the API called WindTab, okay? And WindTab is, you can just tell by the name, right? Windows tablet, it's a Windows tablet API. And what are the kinds of things Windows, and it's exactly the way you think this language would work. It says, tell me, the application that a drawing application, right? A painting application will say, okay, where is the pen? Where is the pen? Is the, and is the button pressed? And is the pressure? Just keeps on sort of asking this question over and over. And it's getting this data back from WindTab. It's pretty obvious how this should work. And just to shed a little more light, let me draw here, right? To shed a little more light, what is this information going back from WindTab to the application? Now, I'm not going to show you exactly what it shows, but in spirit, it's like this. So every little packet of information, it is actually called packet in WindTab, by the way, contains lots of information, but it contains the X position, the Y position, the tilt, right? It contains pressure, obvious stuff, okay? It contains whether the buttons are pressed, okay? Believe it or not, you're going to be surprised by this. It actually, this line just indicates there's more things. It actually has a Z height, and this is obvious. The tablet knows how far the pen is from the tablet. That's how we know hover works, right? So that's another piece of data it comes into. Some tablets will communicate, barrel rotation. Okay? And there's more information, trust me, there's lots more information. And not all of it is as nicely explained like this. For example, just an example of the complication here. You might get tilt as, I think tilt in WindTab comes back as an X tilt, meaning, tilt in the X direction and tilt in the Y direction, and it's an equivalent. It can come up as, let me move this mouse. Tilt, get this, tilt azimuth and tilt altitude. And this is a lot of detail to get into. I'm just trying to say there's a lot of complication in here, right? But your intuitive guess of what's in here is pretty much correct, okay? And the only people who need to care about this kind of detail are really developers. Okay, let's take a look. Kanto does have a comment. The Apple Pencil didn't have hover at first, only from Pro, I think. Well, let me get to the presentation. I want to come back to that topic because I'm going to talk about certain features. I'm sorry, I'm clicking in the wrong place, aren't I? Let's create a new slide, okay? So I want to talk about Apple Hover and Tilt, just in general, right? Some special information about those things. Okay, and one more thing I want to just clarify for you is this. Am I yeah, I'm projecting the right thing. Let's ask ourselves an interesting question. This is getting a little deeper, but I hope you'll like this. Have you ever noticed that some tablets have 1,000 levels of pressure, some have 4, some have 8, and some have 16, right? So WindTab actually has to handle all these cases, right? And so tablets, it has a facility to let all tablets work and work in whatever number of units they want, basically, right? So it abstracts away. If you're writing an application, you don't want to know how many levels of pressure the tablet supports, because you don't want to have to write special code for each tablet. WindTab lets a tablet application think about a generic. I just want to think about pressure. Sorry. This is a little bit of a lie, what I'm telling you, but it's not too far from the truth, actually. God, it's rendering so weird here. What is going on? Okay. Basically, the applications tend to want to think about, hey, look, you just give me pressure from 0 to 1.0, right? Don't tell me how many pressure levels you want. Just give me a number. And I know that 1 means max, 0 means no pressure, and I'll figure out what to draw, right? So WindTab makes application writing simpler because you don't have to know the details of the tablets, right? So there's a benefit to WindTab. It's not that it just makes it possible, it makes it easier for applications to know what's going on with the tablet, okay? Here's another interesting thing about WindTab, and this is literally documented in the WindTab source code. Believe it or not, remember I told you that the language constrains the interaction? Here's a question apps cannot ask. You ready? What tablet is connected? Meaning, why is this drawing not working here? What tablet is connected? Believe it or not, this question is not supported. Deliberately. WindTab has no way of telling an application which tablet is connected. And the stated reason, and I'm inferring a little bit here, is that they don't want applications to be written to specific tablets. Because the minute you write an application that's written for Wacom and 2.0 Pro, PTA 660, what does that mean? It means that if you're Wacom, you release in 2.0 Pro 2025, a whole bunch of applications will not work because they're checking for specific tablets. And who knows what they're doing with specific tablets, right? So it's literally a policy in this implementation. They will not reveal. Now, actually, to be fair, in the implementation, in the WindTab implementation, if you actually use it, which I have, you can find out that it is a Wacom tablet, but it will not tell you the name or model number of the tablet. Okay? So the interface does not know that. Now, here's the catch. Here's the catch. This is interesting. Remember, WindTab is a language. Okay? The driver does know. Right? Remember, WindTab is a language, meaning it's how you talk. But the driver does know this information, and that's to be expected, because each tablet that behaves differently is very specific. So Huion drivers know which tablet they're working with. Wacom drivers know. Listen, they don't even. It's not only that the Wacom driver knows which tablet model. They know the serial number. They even know it for the pens. You won't believe me? Watch. Now this is not true for every tablet driver, but for Wacom it is. And I'm trying to get to the Wacom center here. We're going to show this to you. Let's find out here. It's probably under advanced. Not here? No, not there, sorry. Let's try advanced. Diagnostics? Yeah, here we go. Sorry, I know you can't see it. But we'll get there. Okay, this is the Wacom Center, and I opened up the diagnostics thing. And just so you see it, I'm here, I clicked on advanced, and then I went to diagnostics, okay? And so take a look at what the driver knows. This is the driver application, obviously. It knows the model number. It knows the serial number of the tablet, okay? It knows the firmware version of the tablet. It knows all sorts of things about this tablet, right? If I touch the pen and I start drawing, okay, take a look. You can see it knows information about the tablet. And actually, look here. See what says pen SN serial number? It knows the serial number of the pen, not just the model, which says Pro Pen 2. It knows the serial number. And watch what happens when I switch to Pro Pen 3. Right? It's a different serial number, different pen. And in fact, I've got two Pro Pens here. I think this is a Pro Pen. Yeah. Watch the serial number. It's 0x168 something. I'm going to switch to a different Pro Pen 2. So different, same model, but different unit. Sorry, it does. I made a mistake here. This does you the same serial number for the pen, right? Different serial numbers for different pen types, not for different pen units. So a Wacom driver doesn't know the difference between two Wacom Pro Pen 2s, but it does know that one's a Wacom Pro Pen 2 versus 3. Okay. Now, one reason I'm showing this to you is the point I'm trying to make is the actual driver knows more about the tablet than WindTab communicates to applications. So Clip Studio Paint will not be able to answer to you which tablet model you have, right? There's no way for it to get this information. Okay, so that's WindTab. So let's talk about WindTab, just about what it's like. Now WindTab is I like WindTab actually. It's very understandable, okay? It is very understandable. And it is complex. That's the one thing that I learned while using it and exploring the API. It is more complicated than I let on. Like the way I talk to you, I was like, oh yeah, you just ask for the pen position, it gives you back the pen position. Arch, you're killing me. You're absolutely. That's funny. Classic Arch comment. Okay, so what was I saying? Yeah, WindTab is actually much more complicated than I'm letting on. Like way more complicated. It is simple to use actually. Like once you see someone use it, it's like obvious. And I've written an application that talks to WindTab, okay? And it was a real joy actually to learn. And I started to appreciate, the complexity of building these things. WindTab can handle all sorts of situations. You can have multiple tablet drivers, and it knows about how the tablet drivers are mapped to the different screens. Like, it just takes care of all that stuff. And the applications don't have to know about the mapping and all that stuff. They just ask for position and pressure and all that. Okay, so WindTab is pretty good. And for, I don't know, I'm making the number up, for 20-something years, that was the only game in town. If you had a drawing tablet, whether it be Wacom or not, every application would just you speak the language of WindTab, okay? And that was a fine situation because WindTab is great. Okay, it's fantastic. It does have one weird thing though. Okay. Oh gosh, you're killing me, Arch. Wacom introduces new hit squad function in tablet format for users who have competitor drivers installed. They would never do that, but it's possible, and we're actually going to get into that. And I know, Charlie, I know I'm going into really a lot more detail than maybe you wanted, but I hope you're enjoying this. Okay, let's erase this. Let me show you again. Screen. I swear I'm going to write my own whiteboarding app because I hate using this one that Microsoft built. It's not that good at whiteboarding, I have to tell you. Okay, so now we're going to get a little deeper into what WindTab is doing. And you need to understand this because then it'll make a little more sense when I talk about the pros and cons about Windows Inc. versus WindTab. Okay. Remember, at the end of the day, code on a computer is a set of files, okay? So where is the code for WindTab? Now, I'm on a Mac OS, so I can't literally show it to you because Mac OS doesn't have WindTab, okay? And remember, WindTab's a standard, but to use it, you need a file, okay? So on Windows, the installer for your driver, right? I believe under C:, Windows /system 32. If you look and you're on a Windows machine and you have a tablet drive installed, you will see a file called WindTab 32.dll. Sorry, this line should probably not be. Let me rewrite this a little bit. 32.dll. Okay. That's WindTab. That's the file where all the code is in. Okay. Now, this is all well and good. Let me ask you a question. If you install Wacom, the Wacom driver in 1990, it's going to put this file here. Everyone's cool with that, right? It's pretty obvious that's going to happen. And then you install, what in the world? And then you install, that's weird. This, where did my eraser go? Hang on. I literally had an eraser 5 seconds ago. And now I can't see it. Yeah, I'll just create a new, I'll get a new whiteboard. Oh, I truly hate this piece of software. Okay, so somewhere under, System 32, there's a WindTab 32, DLL. For those of you who don't know, DLL stands for Dynamic Link Library. Not super important that you know that, but I just want to make sure, I'm telling you all the stuff. We know how this thing gets there. And what happens if you install a Wacom, let's say this got installed from a Wacom version 1 driver, right? 1.1. That installed it, right? What happens if you install Wacom driver version 1.2? Well, nothing surprising, right? It will overwrite this file with maybe a newer version of WindTab 32.dll. Okay? Nothing wrong with that, right? What happens though if you install, let's just pretend Huion exists at this time. A Huion, on day 3 you install Huion version 5.3. What's going to happen? Well, it's going to replace the WindTab with the same file name, but a different file. In other words, man, I swear, I used to be able to draw in color, and now it's like, no, I'll never show you color here. Oh, here we go. Okay, now I understand. So this is the problem. Every brand has a different. Why is it doing that? Literally, I cannot draw. This stupid app is just like, no, I won't let you draw. Could be a pen problem. Okay, maybe it is. Different. WindTab. Like, the files are actually different. And they are different. Actually, Albert, I don't know what a DLM file is. It may be, can you just try to open it? I think it may be a text file, literally. So try opening up a notepad. Or we'll look it up on the internet as well. So Huyan's got one, Wacom's got one, XPPen's got one, and these files are actually different files. Like the Huyan WindTab, I'll call it WT, you cannot use it with a Wacom tablet. Like, it just will not work, okay? Because it's that DLL's job to deal, it's tied into the driver. Like, it has to know what that specific driver is, and that specific driver knows what a tablet does. They don't know how to talk to different things, okay? So what would happen then if you had Clip Studio Paint and it's working with Wacom, and you install Huyan the next day? Suddenly, Clip Studio Paint will no longer work with the Wacom, but will work with your Huyan, okay? This is a problem with WindTab. This is the fundamental problem with WindTab, okay? Oh, DLL. Thank you for clarifying, Eddie Alvarez. Thank you. Okay, so this is the big problem, okay? Okay, so now we're gonna have to just pause for a second, and we're going to talk about Microsoft, a topic that's near and dear to my heart. And let me be clear with everyone, I love Microsoft. I had a time in my life there, and I love them still, and I can't wait to see what they're gonna do. But, you know, sometimes these stories of doing things get complicated. Okay, so now we're gonna just hold off on WindTab. Actually, let's see, Kanto has a, and Albert, DLL means Dynamic Link Library. And that name has no meaning for non-developers. It's only for developers. You should just think about this as code that can be used by applications, okay? And let me do a little more clarification of what's going on here. Let's see. Let me draw an application. So you know Clip Studio Paint, right? And Clip Studio Paint is implemented as a bunch of code. Like, it itself has a bunch of, I'll just call them 1.dll and 2.dll. There's a bunch of DLLs here, right? And there's an exe as well, okay? And WindTab is a DLL, right? And what happens is Clip Studio Paint, or whichever, they loads WindTab, okay? So Clip Studio Paint will load this file, okay? You can understand now why you might have to reboot Windows when you change the DLLs, because you have to get these apps to reload the new one, okay? So the DLL just means, like, it's designed to be linked and loaded into an application, okay? That's the significance of DLL. It's loaded into an application. Okay, I need to use the restroom, so let's take a quick bio break, and I'll be right back, and then I'll go through the chat. And let me know if you're just enjoying the chat, okay? Just shoot a quick message in there, or enjoying the video, the stream, because I'm really curious what you think about it, because I'm pretty sure you've never had anyone go through this level of detail about this topic. Okay, I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. Thank you for your patience. Let me take a quick look at the chat. Let's see. I think Kanto has, you're discovering the issue I was talking about, Kanto, which is the driver thing. But we may in this video see if there's a possibility to get it work. Okay. Because it is possible to make it work. Mostly. Let's see. Okay, here we go. So now we got to step back from WindTab, and we got to enter the land of Microsoft. And we got to, in real talk, we're going to talk about history, the history of certain topics. Okay, when I joined Microsoft in 1996, there was, how can I say it? Sorry, let me get my eyes cleaned up here. When I joined Microsoft in 1996, tablets were really rare, really rare. No one knew what the heck I had, right? Even for a long time, people saw it. I'd have to explain what it was because it was such a rare thing to see a digital pen. But that was 1996, and it wasn't the case that nobody at Microsoft was thinking about digital pens. Now, I'm going to type in something, and I'm going to type it in, and some of you have seen this term. And let me type it in, and then we'll take a look. Okay. And I typed in tablet PC. And tablet PC is, see, when I type it in and search in Google, you're getting all this you're getting tablet PCs. But that's actually not what we're talking about. We're talking about an actual Microsoft Word. Let's see if we can find, I think there was a Wikipedia article on it. Yeah, there is actually. So it's this thing. This is Microsoft Tablet PC. Oops, okay. So take a look at the dates though, right? Devised by Microsoft and announced in 2001. That's 10 years before the iPad, right? Take a look at this device. Looks a lot like what we see today, like a Samsung Galaxy Tab S9 or whatever. But this is running Windows XP. You can just see it right there, right? And I'm just showing you this because for a long time, Microsoft had been thinking about, where's my face here? For a long time, Microsoft had been thinking about how pens would interact with your Windows computers. Now, by the way, before people released like Compaq or whoever released their first tablet PCs, I actually got a chance to use one. I mean, I was in one of the Microsoft cafeterias. This is like in the evening, the mid-evening. And one of my friends, his friend was walking by, and he had a tablet PC. Now it was a prototype tablet PC. They didn't even exist then, okay? And I'm trying to show it to you. I'm not joking. I am not joking here, okay? This is not a tablet PC. This is a XP Pen Artist Pro 16 Gen 2, okay? So he said, he goes, hey guys, do you want to see a tablet PC? Here's the prototype. He handed me a device that was this big. And you see how thick this is? Let's see if you can see it. It was twice the maximum thickness of this, okay? I had to hold it like this. Like I had to really support it in my arm like a baby or something, I guess. And like I can't remember if I had a pen in my hand. I think he gave me a pen. I was doing some doodling, but it hurt. Like it was so heavy that like I couldn't hold it for long. I mean, it's not like it was a weightlifting weight, but the point is like it was extremely heavy. You would not want to hold it. It would be like holding a 24-inch monitor. Okay, that's what it felt like. So this was if I recall, yeah, this was like in the late 1990s when I saw that prototype in my recollection. So I'm just bringing this up to help you understand that the idea of Windows working with a pen is an old idea. Microsoft has always thought about this form factor, right? Or the form factors that involve digital pens. Okay, so you got to keep that in mind. So in 1999, I have a Wacom tablet, and then you start seeing in the early 2000s, you start seeing some devices start releasing that are built. They're guided. We're not making them. Microsoft's not making them, but Toshiba is, right? And we'll actually show you one of them as well. And they are designed with this tablet PC concept in mind from Microsoft. Okay, let's see if we can find an example of one of these. The one I remember, which I loved, by the way, Toshiba M200. I think that was the one. Dynabook, the Pro. Oh God, yeah, I definitely remember this. Let's see if this is the not protege, the Portage, right? And I had a specific one here. So when did this come out? I'm just trying to get the date here. Because I had an M200. This entire line was from 1993 to 2018. Let's see if I can find I want to find the Toshiba M200. It looks like Wikipedia doesn't have a good article on it, but the AI overview actually did a decent job here, right? So this is what it looked like, and this screen, it's folded, so it was like a what do you call it? A 2-in-1, right? This screen, you can flip it up and rotate it, right? And so I actually had this one. And you see there is a pen. So remember now, you get this device and the pen works. Okay? It's not a Wacom device. This is a Toshiba device. How does the pen work? Obviously, what did we tell earlier? There has to be a driver. Well, there's no WindTab driver installed from Wacom. So which driver is installed? Okay, so it's tablet. It's I don't know if they would say this actually, but I'm going to call it the tablet PC drivers. Okay, because there is a driver, obviously. Okay, now what's important is remember that name. What I just said, tablet PC. Now you know where it came from, and you notice now you know there's a driver, right? And if you put this pen on the screen, you'd see not a normal, if I recall correctly, you wouldn't see a normal mouse icon, like a pointer. You'd see a little small, like kind of weird dot. We're getting there, Kanto. You're on the right track. So tablet PC, when you use the pen, had a special pointer. Why do I say that? You got to understand there was something, it had a special behavior when you used a pen. Okay, and remember, you haven't installed any other drivers. It's out of the box, and it had other things. Okay, so here's an example, and there's a little bit of inference here, so you have to bear with me. And I really can't remember if it started with this version of Windows or later, but when you're on a tablet, I'll just use the back of my phone, and you're pressing on glass. I'll use the front actually, right? Obviously, you physically feel the pen hit, right? You feel that happen because it's a physical object that you hit. But are you sure the computer registered the click? It's a little mystery, right? Like if the computer, if the screen is on, your iPad or whatever, this is the thinking. I'm inferring. If you're clicking on the screen and you can hear it, right? But the computer doesn't do anything, you're going to start wondering, did the computer, is something wrong with the pen? Does it know the pen is there? Am I actually clicking? Is it understanding that there's a click? So in Windows, you started seeing the development of, how can I say it? Behaviors to help you understand the pen is functioning, okay? So one of those behaviors is actually this thing. Let me see if I can remember how to do this. Windows dynamic feedback. We're going to find we need dynamic feedback rings. Some of you will know exactly what's going on. Oh, come on. Actually, I think I have it on my website. I'll show it to you. Sorry, I know you can't see. We'll get there. I think it's good. Okay, take a look at this. Everyone see it? That was a special behavior from tablet PCs. Art says he's watching the stream through a display tablet right now. He's starting to become a freak from hanging around tablet people. Happens to everybody. It's common. It's what do they call it? It's that pathway, right? So you see the little ripples? That's called a dynamic rings feedback. That's to tell users, hey, you really clicked, okay? Now, whether or not it was a good idea, I just want to let you know, it had a purpose, okay? Number two, keep in mind the context here. If you got a Wacom tablet in 1998, what were you doing with it? Well, we can tell just by looking at the box. We're going to get there, Charlie Martian, trust me. If you look at the box of Intuos, what does it say? It's a pro tablet for 3 sets of people, it says. Designers, artists, and photographers. In other words, it's for people doing creative tasks. Now, I just want to ask you a question. Imagine you're purchasing a Toshiba M200 Portage tablet, and you're purchasing like 100 of them for your division. Are you purchasing that tablet, that computer, for people to draw and paint with? No. What are you purchasing it for? You are doing it so people can mark up documents. I mean, this is the idea. Mark up documents, digital signatures, maybe note-taking. We did have an idea that people were going around to construction sites writing notes about, I don't know, OSHA violations or something. I hope OSHA doesn't, I'm not in trouble with OSHA after saying that. But that's the idea of a business laptop using a pen. Wasn't about drawing. And this is going to come and haunt us later, okay? So here's another thing, because I mentioned those little rings, right? Everyone knows how to do a right click with a mouse, right? Well, how do you do a right click with a pen? Especially, these pens didn't have buttons. Or you couldn't guarantee that they had a button. Well, how would you do it? And how would you communicate to the user, hey, you are right clicking? Well, they came up with a way to do it. And I'm going to get there in a second. Where is it? Press and hold. Yeah. Let me show you press and hold. This is another wild feature. E-ink pens, yes, are a different beast. Windows, press and hold. Let's try this. Press and hold. Let's just say draw tablet. Shit. Let's type in the word Wacom because that'll trigger the right search. Yeah, I'm going to open up this video from Adam Duff just so we can see it. Okay.
Hey guys, I recorded a video
I'll turn off the audio.
years ago, but then I reinstalled.
So let's see if we can get there. I just want him to demo the feature, right? Hang on a second. Let's show you what I'm seeing. Yeah, here we go. I just want him to demo the feature. He's not showing it, so let's find another video. You need to see it to believe it, honestly. Maybe this video will do it. Okay, has any of you seen that? Right, let's go watch that again. So the person is trying to click on that slider, okay? So, and what happens is he's not moving the pen, right? Remember, you have to understand, a mouse is not being used, a pen is being used. And this, because he's not moving the pointer, the way that Microsoft people decided to do right-click was if the person, so you can't click, that's counts like you can't do this, that's a left click. They said hold the pen down for half a second. This ring will appear. What that ring means is, okay, now you're right-clicking, okay? That's called press and hold. Okay, so that's another thing that was introduced so that people who had never used a pen and you couldn't guarantee that they had buttons, this is how they can do right-click. Because they don't have a mouse around, because they're walking around a construction site with a pen that doesn't have buttons, so how do you right-click on an operating system that really is obsessed with right-clicking? Okay? There's another thing that happens. Remember, I said you want to do handwriting, like enter a signature? They would show UI, if you went to a text box, meaning someplace where you had to enter a password or something, they would show up a little thing where you could type in something. I mean, not type in, but write in something, and it would recognize it badly. So there's all these UI features that Microsoft started inventing for tablet PCs. Okay, and I know this is a long, crazy story, but the setup, this is just a setup for the drama that's going to happen. So they added this feature, and what happened is I actually had this Protege. Okay, I had it. In fact, it was one of my favorite laptops. And I started using it with a Wacom tablet. I wanted to draw, of course. So I installed my Wacom driver, and you know what happened? It all worked. The Wacom, I could use my Wacom to draw things with Painter, and simultaneously, it didn't interfere with the other pen, and the apps didn't have any problems, okay? So there's kind of like in this time in Microsoft, in Windows, there's like two worlds. There's the people who you're drawing, and then there's people who are doing business stuff with a pen. Okay, two different worlds. They did not interfere with each other. Okay. And then what happened was, I don't know exactly how, and I remember I'm inferring a lot. Microsoft over the years increasingly started saying, hey, we want to unify how things work. And basically the logic, apparently that was going on was Windows started to believe that if it detected a Wacom tablet connected to your PC, the operating system would start thinking, oh, this person is using a tablet PC. And it would start enabling all these tablet PC features, like the press and hold and the dynamic feedback rings. And so you had a bunch of people who were artists who would be like, that press and hold will mess with how you use your painting. You can't paint correctly. Same with the dynamic rings, it's just irritating. So, okay, that's okay. All those settings had on-off switches. So you could go into some UI and turn it all off. So peace was achieved. And so things were actually great with Windows for a long time. But then every release of Windows, Microsoft was trying to integrate, trying to just make pen computing work more seamlessly with Windows. By the time Windows 7 came around, something really weird happened, which is, remember I told you all these irritating behaviors? You could turn it off in the control panel. By the time the Windows 7 came around, you couldn't go to the control panel to delete them. You were stuck with the features, right? They were just on, and no one in Microsoft apparently knew the difference, right? They were like, oh, why do we care, right? Like, no one's drawing. What's a drawing tablet? So, however, people figured out you could go into the registry and turn them off with the registry, okay? So, the war between drawing tablets and Microsoft Windows, there was another ceasefire. We discovered to use registry keys to stop the problems, the conflicts. Then Windows 8 came, okay? Windows 8 is when Microsoft really started to, Windows 8 came around, 2012, okay? What was released around 2011 was the iPad. And iPads, we always dreamed of making a device like the iPad, okay? And it didn't use a pen at the time, obviously. So we just released the Surface. We're like, oh yeah, this is the new device. It's a slate device. It's more and more pen computing. And so, how can I say this? Then by Windows 8, you couldn't even disable those features. You couldn't. So if you installed a Wacom driver, you got those features. There's nothing you could do. The registry keys didn't work anymore. The UI didn't exist to turn them off. So you were just stuck. It was a real nightmare. And the nightmare lasted for quite a few months, actually. I don't know, maybe 6 months before somebody figured it out. Okay. Now, and remember, the only tablets being used at that time in Windows realistically was Wacom. At some point, the problem is solved. Wacom added a special piece of UI in their drivers, and if you click this UI, the problems would go away. And can anyone guess what text was next to that checkbox that made all the problems go away? I'll look in the chat. See if you can guess what piece of text appeared next to that checkbox. So by default, the Wacom driver had it checked, but if you were having these problems, you would uncheck it, and then all the problems went away. I'll wait for anyone to guess the text that appeared. Okay, I'm waiting. Well, let me drink some water while I am waiting. Windows Inc. That's right, Charlie Merchant. That's exactly right. That is exactly what appeared to stop this problem, right? And just so that we're absolutely explicit, let me draw it out. So by default, the Wacom drivers had this checked, and it said something like use Windows Inc. or enable Windows Inc., but we'll just pretend it literally said the word Windows Inc. Okay? And if you unchecked it, in Windows 8, basically you could breathe free a sigh of relief. Okay? Now, I said earlier when we started the thing, I said, we're going to pretend that there is such a thing as Windows Inc. And we're going to revisit that just for a second. You're probably wondering, that's a very curious thing for me to have said, because here literally is a words that say Windows Inc. Okay? So obviously there must be something called Windows Inc. And in a sense, I guess you could say there is, but really, in a sense, there's no such thing called Windows Inc. There is no driver called Windows Inc. Okay? It's a name that was... And I think, there are probably logical reasons it was given. I don't think it was a mistake, but the sense I get is they picked this name because it was the feature name associated with all the tablet PC stuff. So in other words, the tablet PC stuff got renamed to Windows Inc. And these features like dynamic ring and press and hold were tablet PC features. Tablet PC features got renamed to Windows Inc. So in a sense, they said, let's just use that name turn it off, and that's how they did. So you would believe, because you would believe Windows Inc. is a driver and is like, you could find it somehow. It's not the case. It's actually just a name we're giving for lots of different things. I'll talk about those in a minute. So for now, we're just going to pretend that Windows Inc. is a specific API, like it's an alternative to WindTab, okay? And in that vein, we're going to pretend that, how can I say? It's like, it's a specific API, and it's just built into Windows, okay? Now we're going to get into the fun stuff about what are the consequences of Windows Inc. being on or off, okay? And this is not easy. There's a lot to talk about here. Okay, here we go. So, and I had to experiment to figure this out. It's not easy to understand. I wish I could tell you from my experimentation that you should always do something and it would work. I used to believe that. I used to believe if you disabled Windows Inc., things were good. I don't believe that. I believe that it's a complicated situation and you have to carefully think about what to do, okay? But let's start really, really simple, okay? We'll talk about a driver, right? Doesn't matter which driver. We'll talk about an application. In this case, just to make it more obvious, we'll talk about Clip Studio Paint, okay? Now I said they have to talk the same language, okay? Let's take the simplest case, right? WT here means WindTab, right? I think it's pretty obvious that, at some point in time, these apps, they only were ever able to talk WindTab. Like they didn't know any other languages. So of course, this just worked, right? Nothing wrong there. Oh, I'm not showing you my picture. Sorry. Driver, WindTab, CSP, WindTab. I just drew a line between. Right? They're talking this language. So it works. They both speak the same language. It's fine. Okay? And at some point, let me rename this a little bit because WI and WT are going to look too similar. So let me write out WindTab. WindTab. Right? And then, again, we're going to pretend that Windows Inc. is a specific other kind of API, another kind of language, a specific one. And now, we sort of conceptually agree. I'm going to draw these separate boxes, actually, right? So this is CSP, and this is the driver. We agree that if both talk Win Inc., that's terrible. My writing is terrible. Win Inc. You would have to agree that if they're both talking the same language, that will work. Okay? Pretty straightforward, right? And this is the truth. Like, if they each can only talk one language, then as long as they're talking the same language, things are okay. Okay? In comparison, let's just do a slight change here. Let us change this around us a little bit. And for whatever reason, let's say that the CSP is talking WinInc, right? Like it only can talk WinInc, but this only talks WindTab. Well, this is not going to work. They speak different languages, okay? That's a problem, okay? Now, some of you kind of know where I'm headed here. You can kind of sense I'm talking about how do you configure these apps, right? So if you look in the driver, in the driver, you'll see a setting that looks like this. I'll just abbreviate it as WinInc. And of course, you could turn it off, right? And then the application, and this is going to get interesting. In the application, let's say Clip Studio Paint, or let me say app, because Clip Studio Paint actually has its own complications. In the app, for some reason, which will become obvious in a minute, you will see the same questions, but done in a different way. You'll see it like this. WindTab, WinInk. So these are radio buttons. So, one of them is selected. In this case, it's WindTab is selected. And this is WinInk. Okay? So there's two places. Both of them have some UI to configure how Windows Ink is being used. In other words, both UIs have some place that lets you control which language is going to be spoken. Okay? Let's take the application case first, because it's the simplest case. And I'll ask you a question. If I select WindTab, it's a two-part question. How many languages will the application speak, and which one will it speak? The answer is simple, obviously. The application speaks only one language, because it's configured to. That language is WindTab. But if I change it to WinInk, it will still only speak one application, except now it speaks WinInk. Okay? Now, if you see this, you would kind of think these have to match, and they kind of do, but how they match is not obvious. And that'll be obvious, it'll become clear in a second when I ask you the following question. Let's deal with, I'll put it in red here. In the driver, if WinInk is not selected, I'm going to ask you the same question. How many languages are spoken, and which language is spoken? Does anyone want to guess? I'm going to wait and see if anyone has an answer to this. So I'll wait, 30 seconds, and if I don't see an answer, I'll just tell you. It's not a trick question. I just want you to think about it. Right? What language do you think you're telling the driver to talk? Kanto, I'm not sure what this comment actually means. Is it like AME and BRE? Or maybe you're referring to something else. Let me know. Okay, Charlie Martian, you are correct. It will speak one language, and it will speak WindTab. Okay, so I'll write that down. It'll speak WindTab. Okay? Okay, now, trick question. This is a trick question. If WinInk is checked, how many languages are spoken by the driver, and which languages is it, or are they? Okay, I'll wait for this answer. This is a trick question. Indo's. I see. Konto was talking about another comment. No, the hard question with the prize comes next. This one. Okay. Well, Alvaro G has got it right. In fact, this will speak both languages. I bet you didn't expect that, huh? You probably thought that if it's checked for WinInk here, it should be selected WinInk here. And that will work. And you probably thought if it's unchecked here, meaning it's using WindTab, that it's got to be WindTab here, right? And that's true. That works. But actually, this case with WinInk, sorry, I was pointing with my fingers, that actually will work. Let me erase some things. Because for a driver it means use both, it actually means this works in both cases, believe it or not. Right? So when the checkbox in the driver, in other words, the other way to interpret this is, let me write it down a little differently. Okay. Isn't this interesting? Like I said, I do not believe this topic has ever been covered like this. Okay. So in the driver, if WinInk is checked, both WindTab and WinInk are used. If it's, if it's unchecked, then only WindTab. In other words, the drivers always, I didn't write this down. Whoops, I'll read it like, drivers always can speak WindTab. Okay? Always. The checkbox for WinInk, literally, now we can understand what it's actually doing. It's a checkbox because it's adding it's adding the WinInk language to the driver. Okay? That's what's going on here, right? So, now let's talk a little bit about, so I hope that's clear. Now let's talk about what you should do, okay? I used to have a different view on this, and I shifted my view because I realized I was making the thing too complicated, okay? Let's keep it simple. We're going to really focus on simplicity, okay? What should you do? Okay? So for the driver, this is what I recommend. This is my recommendation. The driver, check or enable. Let me use that word because check may not be the right phrase. Enable my recommendation, okay? Enable WinInk. In the application, I would say try WinInk. If there's a problem, then try WindTab. Okay? That's what I think you should do. Okay? If there's still a problem, then also disable in the driver. So let me write this down in a maybe more algorithmic way, right? Sorry, I'm going to just do this again. So you start with the driver, enable WinInk, and in the app, you use WinInk. If there's a problem, your next thing is you disable WinInk in app. See if that works. Whenever you change this setting, you need to restart the application. Okay, we got a question here. Charlie Martian, when you say driver, are you referring to the settings screen on the hardware example, Welcome settings? I don't have, okay, let me go to my WinInk page here and let me just show you, okay? Ink. I know you can't see it, but we'll project it in just a moment. Okay, so let's drill down here. Oh no, I see what you're saying. No, I'm not saying. When I say app, I'm talking about in the application. So let's be clear. In the driver, I'm just talking about this button, okay? And the catch that is, let's get to it a little bit later, but what this is doing though, which is a great thing to point out, in this current state, notice which application is being configured. All applications. So you're turning off Windows Ink. Oh, sorry. This is saying be bilingual, meaning speak both languages for all applications. Okay? And so this should be where you start off with your driver. This is a safe thing to do. Now, what you do, you can create a per app by clicking this. There's a plus button right here. You can create a special setting just for specific applications, right? But I'm not there yet. I'm talking about going into Krita and then configuring it, okay? Now, remember, in all drivers, there's a checkbox that just says Windows Ink or use Windows Ink or enable Windows Ink. So it's enabling or checking this off is pretty easy. The only complication is you can say it's enabled for all applications, but disabled for a specific application from the driver's perspective. From the application perspective, things get a little wild. And let me show you what's going on here. And this is where we're going to discover the lies. The truth is going to be unveiled to you. Okay, let's go down here. Okay, so let's just take a look at, this is Eclipse Studio Paint. So this is the application, obviously. What are the two options called? One of them is called WindTab, and we understand what that means now, don't we? This means this application, first of all, this application will only speak one language. What is that language? WindTab. Because that's what it's set to right now. But what is the other language? It doesn't say WinInk, it says Tablet PC. But remember, WinInk is sort of like the new name for those Tablet PC components. And you're going to see that all over the place. You're going to see in documentation, you're going to see in applications, the word Tablet PC will appear. And what it really means is Windows Ink. Okay? So Tablet PC in this case means Windows Ink. Let's try another case. Okay, this is Krita. This is interesting. Okay. Now Krita, can I zoom in here? Because I think I want to show you something. Oh, that's awful, Krita. Oh, sorry, it's not Krita. What are the two options? One is WindTab. I think we all understand what that means. What's the second option? I'll read it out to you because it may be small. Windows 8 plus, meaning 8 and above, pointer input. And in parentheses, it says Windows Ink. This is our first clue something is weird. Notice the phrasing. Windows 8 plus, pointer input, Windows Ink. Why didn't they just call it Windows Ink? I mean, isn't Windows Ink the name of the API? It's not. It's not. And we'll talk more about it, but just keep this in your mind, right? We'll talk about the advantages. We'll talk about the advantages, honestly. Or we'll talk about what Microsoft and Wacom says of the advantages in both directions. Please remind me toward the end. We'll get there, absolutely. This gets even wilder, folks. Okay. Where is that darn? Okay, here we go. Take a look at ArtRage Vita. Okay. There are 4 options here. Or 3 options, my bad. There's Windows Ink, we understand what that means. And then there's 2 options called low precision and high precision. What the hell is that? Okay. So believe it or not, those are WindTab. WindTab has 2 modes, and for some reason they decided to talk about the modes, right? And it's very weird. It's just very weird. But those 2, they're like different configurations of WindTab, right? Okay, let's try ArtRage. Oh, ArtRage is a funny one. Okay, ArtRage reverses the setting. Instead of, they do the opposite of what the driver does. They don't have a checkbox for use Windows Ink. They have a checkbox for use WindTab, right? So this is obvious, it's using WindTab, but it's just, it's probably a little confusing, right? So Okay. It has some other stuff. I'm not going to get into that stuff because, again, it gets really complicated with Windows APIs. Let's try, Medibang. I don't have a screenshot, but they actually have a checkbox called Windows Ink. Fire Alpaca. Actually, let me see if. Oh, you know what? I think I have some screenshots. I'm going to show you. Once you see them, you'll be like, "What is going on with these apps?" And Mac OS people should feel lucky; they don't have to deal with this problem. Well, anyway, you get the idea. You're going to see different names for Windows Ink because there really isn't a Windows Ink. It was just a convenient name that was used. There are actually in Windows. I'd have to. Knockd is not on the in the chat, but he wrote down for me a list, or not for me, but like he wrote down a list of all the different methods you could use to work with, get pen pressure, etc. In Windows. There's like I think he has like 5 different things. There's the Windows 8 Pointer API. There's the real-time stylus API. There's like, and so Windows Ink is used like a catch-all term for like anything that isn't WindTab. Okay. Let's see. Who would want low precision? I am not okay. I've read the WindTab docs on high and low. I think what's happening with low precision is the pen. I'm sorry. the pen. Sorry. The pen gives coordinates in screen position, meaning which pixel it's on. But I think in high precision, it's giving like, you know how it says like there's 5,280 lines per inch? I think in high precision, it's giving those numbers, right? You shouldn't really need it, I think, but I haven't tried it. So I haven't done any real testing. Okay, and part of that is like, I haven't figured out how to actually use it in my own test app, my WindTab testing app. Let's see, Art says users tend to enable checkboxes blindly because more features are better, so it's super smart to have a use WindTab box. I guess the problem is WindTab is the assumed default for all drivers, right? So, but yeah, people do tend to have checkboxes that they just want to enable everything, right? And again, most of the time, nothing bad will happen, but the reality is this. Whether your app is communicating with WindTab or Windows Ink, there's a chance apps just get weird about it and drivers get weird. It's like the relationship between the application and the driver sours. And, one of them is just not feeling it. And for whatever reason, you just have to switch to the other API. It's happened to me. I have a computer last year, actually. I had been using it with Windows Ink or WindTab forever, which normally works the best. And I'll talk about why in a minute. But one day, I didn't make any change, and then suddenly Clip Studio was like, I don't like this. And I just had to switch, like I just lost pressure. And I had to switch to Windows Ink. Don't know why. I really have no clue why. Let's see. Art says, I've had users report bugs to me because they enabled the break feature checkbox. So yeah. I know. I was going to tell you my favorite bug of all time at Microsoft. Okay, I'll tell it, even though maybe not everyone understands the bug. So back in Microsoft in the day, we had testers, right? People who actually, software quality engineers. And one of them, and so I was in Microsoft Exchange Server, which loads a lot of DLLs, okay? So here was the bug that was filed. I'm not joking. This is a real bug. One of the DLLs for Exchange Server is called XMEM, Exchange Memory DLL. So it's the memory management system. Someone, while the Exchange Server was not running, they renamed the DLL to like foo.dll, right? Then they started the main Exchange Server process, then filed a bug saying the Exchange Server didn't load. And wanted some better behavior like I don't know, a better error message. I mean, in a sense, I can understand it, but he wanted a better error message if the user had renamed the DLL. And we had a huge laugh at that one. I mean, of course, we did not fix the so-called bug. But yeah, okay. So we were at. Yeah, actually, here's Fire Alpaca. Look at what Fire Alpaca calls it. Look at this. Look at some of these options, which are nuts. Fire Alpaca calls it Touch PC and plus Pen Tablet WindTab. That means disable Windows Ink. PC plus Pen Tablet WindTab. Disable and Tablet PC use Windows Ink. Look how strangely these are named, right? You would never guess what these do in Fire Alpaca. Okay? Okay. So there's two different APIs. Is one better? Well, Microsoft will say that. Let me actually get my whiteboard. We'll talk about it. Oh, I'm on the whiteboard. Okay. Yeah, Arch, that does happen, renaming a file, but this person was deliberately doing it and just saying it's not that he was wrong. It's that it's a very contrived scenario for us to fix the like it would be like letting the air out of a tire and then telling out of a car and then telling Honda like, hey, you need to give the user maybe that's a good idea. Yeah, it's like punching a hole through the windshield and then saying, oh, well, you shouldn't sell this car in this current state because it doesn't tell the user that you've punched a hole through the windshield. It's like, what do you want us to do? Okay, so which is better? Microsoft claims they claim that WinInk is faster, meaning better performance, lower latency, etc., etc. And from their point of view, it's the best API you could use, and you better use it. Wacom says they actually, let me not lie to you. Wacom actually wrote about this, like Wacom WindTab versus Windows Ink. It's actually written in their docs, by the way. I think this may be it. Oh, sorry, you can't see it. Okay. So which is better? Oh, I am dying. This is what I was writing on the whiteboard, right? Microsoft says all these amazing things. What does Wacom say? And they say, WindTab pros and cons. I think this is the doc I'm thinking for. Okay. So look what Wacom says, right? They say, we have 35 years of history with this API. It's a stable API, which is true, right? We tested ourselves, eat our own dog food, they call it, right? And they're like, look how obsessive they are about saying that we really take this API seriously, right? Here's another line, I love this, right? WindTab is not subject to any of the problems that have been plaguing Windows 10 Ink in recent years. Look at the language. Problems that have been plaguing Windows Ink, like it's a plague of locusts or something, right? Wacom feels that WindTab-enabled app provides a better overall inking experience, right? We support multiple languages, C, C++, .NET, right? With WinInk, it's much more complicated. WindTab supports capture of ink data on display tablets as well as well, this is true for Windows Ink as well, but their complaint, what they say is kind of negative about WindTab is like, it's just complicated, which I don't believe it's that complicated, honestly. In fact, I think Windows Ink is complicated because it's not obvious how to program it, right? It really isn't. I'm sure if someone shows you to do it, it's either obvious, but like trying to figure out what to do is hard. And why is that? There's not one API. There's actually multiple APIs. There's the Windows 8 Pointer API. There's like the real-time stylus API. It is very confusing. Very, very confusing. Let's see. Art just talking about temperature sensors. So, okay. So let me just try to wrap it up in one big thing, which is Windows Ink and WindTab are two alternative languages. You should use the one that works. And what I did was I showed you how to configure. Again, my recommendation is, starting point, set the driver to use Windows Ink for all or to enable Windows Ink, in other words, be bilingual for all applications. If you're having a problem in the application UI, turn off, meaning switch to WindTab. If that doesn't work, go back to the driver and don't turn off Windows Ink for all applications. In the driver, turn it off, meaning add an exception for a specific application. That's my recommendation. That's, I think, the safest thing for you to do. I don't think you need to be afraid of Windows Ink. I just think sometimes you're going to have problems. Okay, so that's the Windows Ink WindTab story. We're not done with this story, though, because we've got other topics of interest to mention here, right? So we talked about why, we talked about the names, the different ways. We talked about configuring the app and the driver. Now, the next driver I want to talk about is PNP drivers. This is a wild one. So what did I say? That some drivers are in Microsoft Windows already, right? And these are called, so Windows actually has tablet drivers installed, right? And these are, again, the PNP drivers for tablets. And they do work. But here's the problem with the PNP drivers. Number one, let me write this out, because actually it's probably easier for you or quicker for me to type for you. Let me create a new page here in my. So here's what I'd say about PNP drivers. I think you should use these as a last resort. That's really what I'd say. Okay, I'll explain why in a second. Right? Can be useful in troubleshooting. In other words, if you want to know whether a problem is due to your tablet, the hardware, or the driver, and you want to exclude the driver, test with Windows PNP drivers. And I'll talk about how to do it. But it's a last resort. And why is it last resort? It's pretty simple. First of all, it does not, for pen tablets, does not do forced proportions. Just does not. Okay? Okay. Number two, it's missing a ton of features. For example, can't configure buttons, dials, etc. Can't configure the active area mapping, right? On tablet, and of course, cannot configure for the pen. Or buttons on pen. right? What else? Yeah, it just, there's a bunch, I mean, almost everything your tablet can do, like it just cannot do. It's just so basic, right? I tend to feel like it probably works a bit better. I tend to feel it works better with pen displays than pen tablets. Okay. And finally, some tablets just do not work with PNP drivers and require the manufacturer drivers. Okay, I take a bio break. I'll be right back. Okay, I am back. And I think the other thing I want to make sure people know is how do you install the PNP drivers? Oops, wrong screen. There we go. Sorry, how to use them. It's actually really simple. It's only like 2 steps. Uninstall your manufacturer drivers. Then I would just say restart your computer. That's it. There's nothing else to do. Then just plug in your tablet. Then plug in your tablet. That's it. Okay. So again, it's a driver of last resort. I don't recommend you use it, but you know, if that's all you got left, and like your Wacom driver is just messing up, this at least might get you working again, okay? So it could be limited. The biggest problem with this is with pen tablets. Again, it doesn't do anything with the active area. And it's like, I can't remember, I'd have to try it on multi-monitor situations. I feel like it'll just map, it'll map the active area, I think, to all the monitors. So it's a really unpleasant experience, to be honest, with a pen tablet. With a pen display, I think it works better. I think it'll just keep the pointer underneath the pen on the pen display. So that is, it's okay. Okay, let's see. So that was PNP. You should always prefer the manufacturer drivers. Okay. Then OpenTab driver. So we talked about this before, so I won't spend too much time. This really has several uses. Number one is for people playing OSU and want better performance. It's for, I would say, people with older tablets where driver support has been dropped. For people with old or new tablets where the manufacturer drivers are just, having problems. This is also for people who, I think that covers, all the fundamental basis, right, of why you'd want to use OpenTab driver. Oh, so one more thing. People who want to switch between or simultaneously use tablets from different brands. Let's see. Charlie Martian says, the tablet quietly whispers all your base. Yes, I like that. So I think the challenge with OpenTab driver is on Windows. It's a little. I would say in Windows it requires technical expertise to install, right? Oh, and then you need plugins like you need Slimy Scylla to do sort of common things like pressure curves. There's also all sorts of challenges here, like you have to use Windows Ink. OTD only works with Windows Ink. Only works with Windows Ink if you want pressure. Right. Another thing would be, let's see, plug it in. Oh, the UI is very primitive. UI is very primitive. So now here's a Pro, right? Compatible with 200 plus tablets, right? And compatibility can often be added with a configuration file. The community is very active. And developers super active. So it is good. It's very useful. It's good for me because sometimes I'm doing certain testing. Right? Compatible. Okay. I see Albert's got some comments here. Albert OG says, just realized to get to the Wacom pen test area to work. Does it? Really? I'll have to double check that. I don't think I ever realized that. Let Let me put that as a note to myself, Albert, OG. Let's see, let's do a follow-up here. Wacom Center requires, that's weird, Windows Inc. for test area to work. Albert, can you also check in Wacom tablet properties, please? I would check myself, but I'm on a Mac, so I can't really do it right now. So Albert, yeah, can you please just check there to see if the same thing is true? Because I feel like I haven't, if it works with both in Windows tablet properties, Wacom tablet properties, I feel like I understand what might be happening with Wacom Center. Let's see, Art says, you say primitive, I say unbloated. Well, I mean, look, the drivers do some nice things. You take a look at, especially Sense Labs, which has probably the best looking, most UI, well thought out UI for a tablet driver. I think it is very nice. Oh, here's another thing that Wacom cannot do. Or both, even PNP can't do. Cannot calibrate pen position. Right? OpenTab driver, calibration requires a special plugin written by Cube, by the way. What's going on here? Written by Cube, and the plugin, I don't think it's visual, and has no UI. That can be a challenge for some people. Hang on a second. Okay. Are there any other topics? Driver conflicts. We talked about driver conflicts. I guess related to that, I would say, yeah, we talked about already driver conflicts because of WindTab. Oh yeah, that's the benefit of Windows Inc. If we could get rid of WindTab in the installations of drivers, then on Windows things would be pretty good, because we would not experience these conflicts, right? So that's an advantage of Windows Inc. It doesn't help us right now because the tablet drivers install WindTab. Right? Okay, I'm not sure why, but for some reason, audio went away. Hang on a second, let me double check something. You can hear me, I think, but I myself cannot hear something for some unknown reason. Let's take a look. There we go. Let's see. Oh, Cube has joined us. There's another one called Better Calibrator that does have visuals, and click the dots. Okay, I'll write. Thank you so much, Cube. I'll write that down. Where's my Open Tablet Driver comments here? So I'll say, I'll just put a note to myself. A better choice is, or that's an alternative choice, is, what is it? Better Calibrator. That does have UI. UI and click the dots, but must be launched separately. Right. So yeah, again, I think if you're who is it for? I would say hobbyists, right? I would not expect, my mom to install Open Tablet Driver. Another thing that you have to be, we have to be careful about. Open Tablet Driver works a little bit differently from, how can I say it? Normal manufactured tablet drivers. in how you get it started and things. And so a normal user might not really understand what to do. I keep it simple. I just start the UI up every time. Oh, Albert, OG. In Wacom tablet properties, the tip field pressure. Okay, let's write this down. So that's the pressure curve. And you can draw Albert OG in the thing. Even if okay, so if what you're telling me, if I take it at face value, this one line here, Wacom Center requires Windows Ink for test area to work. That surprises me because it shouldn't. It has this implication that it's using the Windows Ink API to let you paint in that region, right? Oh, Cube, I did get that. I think I got that in my list here. People with older tablets where driver support has been dropped, right? If there are any others, let me know, right? Yeah, and I'll just say, yeah, let me just put this, under community, join Discord. And I will do a streamer video on Open Tablet Driver. Join Discord, where you can ask for help. And I know, use the support channels. And look at the pinned comments. Pinned comments first. Alberto G says, the tablet properties does not have a drawing area. Alberto G, I don't know which Wacom tablet you have, but let's say it's an Intuos Pro. There should be a customize button. Are you saying you don't see and if you click on the customize button, there should be the drawing area. So can you, not all, like a one by Wacom or an old and new Intuos does not have it, but Intuos Pro, some other tablets have that customize button there. And just so everyone's clear on what I'm saying, let me open it up, actually. This is the pressure. I gotta count how many pages I've written, because I'm pretty sure I have 500 pages of documentation on. Here, let me show. It's this button right here under tip field. Not the one that's circled, it's the button that says customize. And then that should launch this UI. And I want to see if Wacom Center requires WinInk. That makes me think it's using WinInk, which makes me feel weird, because then it makes it more difficult to use Wacom Center as a debugging tool, because it is using one of the things that is a source of problems. Got it. I will. I'll test this. Thank you though for bringing it up, because it's an important topic, and that did surprise me. Okay, driver conflicts. We talked about that. I will say one more thing, kind of related to driver conflicts, which is, let me create a new slide, which is, this comes up a lot. How can I say this? Multiple tablets on a computer. So it really depends on what is meant by this. Like, will it work, right? And let's just go through all the things it can mean. So first of all, the computer and tablets will not explode. Some people are actually concerned about, like, oh, is it dangerous? I'm like, it's not dangerous. The second thing is, you cannot simultaneously draw. If this works, so here, so for example, one PC with, let's say, Joe using tab 1 and Sally using tab 2. That can't work. I actually get this question quite a bit, and usually it's a parent who, oh, you can't see what I'm typing, sorry. It's a parent who, they're like, their daughter wants a tablet, and they've got a PC, right? But like, he thinks in his head like, oh, I can get her, I don't know, a Cintiq, I guess, and plug it into my tablet, and she can be on that tablet using it while I'm using the computer with its monitor, and like, they're two separate devices. And I said, no, it doesn't work. There'll be the tablet pen. You can try it, but what'll actually happen is the tablet pen will fight for the mouse for the pointer position. Actually, you can see it. I'll show it to you right now. I'm assuming I've done this on Windows, so I assume the same thing will happen on Mac. So here's the pen. Oops, sorry. Can you see that? Right? You're moving the pointer. Here's the mouse moving the pointer. Now watch what happens when I'm doing both. Okay. You see that dancing around? So I'm moving the pen and I'm moving the mouse, and they're fighting. They are fighting for control. So you can't use them simultaneously to draw, right? So that's a common misconception. The real problem is, actually, on Windows, there's the Windows WindTab problem, right? Which is like everyone, just like everyone is kung fu fighting, everyone is overriding, everyone is WindTab overriding. Okay? Overriding this file, and that will break things, right? So what you can do is, if all apps are using Windows Ink, then in theory all apps should work, right? In theory. Now, I have tried it, and one time I tried it, and I feel like things were working. I had Huion, XPpen, Wacom, and SenseLabs installed, and like, even when apps were using WindTab, things worked, but if installing a new driver would, the last driver wins, basically, is what I found. And then I switched everything to WindTab, and it seems to work. It seems to work. But the safest thing to do, honestly, is just use tablets from the same brand, and also, implicitly, same driver version, right? In other words, you need to find a driver that works with both versions, so they have to be near enough in age. Pointer Wars could be a big selling. Yeah, Pointer Wars. I like it. Mac OS, I have had great success. Like really good success. I have 3 different Mac OS devices, or computers. I've installed Wacom, SenseLabs, XPpen, and Huion, all 3. I've not had a problem. Some people have not had as much luck. So some people find that it does not work. Okay? I wish I could, I believe things should just work. That's the ideal. And on Mac OS, I think you're more likely to see it work, but some people do have problems. I don't know how the APIs work on Mac OS, so I can't really say what the cause is. But I've had good success with it. And, I could show it to you now. Like I said, I'm using while I've been streaming, not today, but like while I've streamed, I've switched tablets right in front of you, and it's worked on this Mac device. Right? Okay, I think we covered everything. I think we covered every conceivable topic I can think of about drivers, starting from like what they are, the history, I mean, as I understood it, of WindTab and tablet PC and Windows Inc. and PNP drivers. So I think we did a pretty good coverage here. So with that, I think that's it for the stream. Charlie, Martian, if you have any more questions, just let me know. And in fact, I may even be streaming again later tonight, because I originally intended to stream not about tablets, actually. I wanted to show the new, what are they called? Acrylic paint markers I got, which I've never used acrylic paint markers. So doing something non-digital, okay? So I don't see any other questions, and I think we're good. So I am going to wind down the stream. And again, this is really valuable for me because I don't think I've had a chance to go through all these topics. So I learned a lot about how to talk about these topics, right? And with that, I want to thank everyone for your showing up and asking questions and making comments. It was super helpful for me, and I definitely learned things. So everyone, have a great evening, night, day, whatever, and I'll be streaming again soon, and maybe even again tonight with my acrylic paint markers. Okay? Bye, everyone.